Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I am Jamie Cohen, and I am going to be talking about why we need to study memes. So I started a new media major. I started a memes class. I teach this shit. One of the things I do, and I had a PhD is in media archaeology, and I focus it directly on memes. So I'm a meme scholar. And it was one of those things that people are like, why the fuck would you even study that? But there's an extremely good reason to do that because we live in a derivative world. So way back, I was a TV producer. Like, that was long ago before I became an academic. And while I was doing that, I got an email from a friend who didn't understand the fuck what I was writing in an email, and he sent me this. And it was back in 2005, and it was the first time I actually encountered one of these things. I was a normie, was for quite a fair amount of time. I learned a lot in that time. This is why I became part of what I studied as my scholarship. And this thing was my first time encountering what a digital meme might be. And the answer to the email was simply, I didn't understand what you wrote to me, so here's a bunny with a pancake on its head. And it was pretty much straightforward. I mean, that's what it is. It isn't derivative, it is what it is. By 2009, cats were basically having captions, and that was it. The cats had an inner monologue, you were discussing them, you were having fun with them, and it created an entire industry. But before that, there were these like inane type of little images that basically just spoke to us in a way that made us laugh because it was an old school type of way of understanding memes, that they were ours, nobody could really understand it. They were a time of being a WYSIWYG time. Okay, it was what you saw is what you got. It wasn't really much of a complex that we could really understand. However, things escalated pretty quickly. So within a very short period of time, and I mean short, so I'm a media archaeologist. And what that means is I peel back media as an artifact, as if what it would be looking like if we were 10,000 years in the future looking at now, or maybe 1,000 years, and seeing how we understand images or media artifacts as something we could interpret the current culture. So Ryan went first. That was a very fast-paced presentation, but all of that is extremely serious. All of that means something to us in a way that 1,000 years from now, we've got to interpret as a way of knowing what that means in the moment, how we interpret the exact same thing that we see today, because when Pepe is running into the US Capitol, we got to start asking questions about it. So, there was a point when things made sense, and then they didn't. So in a very quick period of time, we went from WYSIWYG to an extremely derivative world where you need to understand a massive amount of media to understand how meaning makes sense. How do we have sense-making in our environment? Because all of a sudden, we get to a point where we live in a derivative world. Everything is downstream from another piece of mass culture where we can't understand this. Imagine finding this inside of something 1,000 years from now and opening it up and just being like, maybe we'll just ignore that. It's like you just put the sand back right on top of that. So I started teaching memes. When I started teaching media studies, I got a little bit of flack for it because it wasn't just understanding how memes were, it wasn't just my enjoyment of the complete horror on my students' faces, but it was really about why we needed to understand what culture does to us and how the memes in the moment actually affect what will happen several years from now, because everything that we saw at that moment changed how things would occur over the next several years. It was just how we had to understand it. And there's an immense amount of power in that, because the meme creators themselves, the labor that goes into it, is an intense amount of meaning. Because what's crazy about this is that a dog can overwrite 800 years of history. If you Google Doge, dogs show up. But for 800 years, a man with a funny hat believed he knew everything about the future. And now he's overwritten by a Shiba Inu. And then somehow, a frog can become a god again. And that's an amazing sense, and really like meme magic that Ryan was talking about, that we could manifest that type of creativity through media creation. But what's really intense about But what's really amazing about memes, and when we study them, and when we teach them, and when we try to get people to understand why this is a real field of study, and why we're here tonight. So Josh and I, about 1.5 years ago, created Digital Void. And it's pretty straightforward. It is a void of understanding. There's a place where you can understand how this works, and then there's a place where you get that gap. We cross that boundary for understanding. Because eventually, the meme makes more sense than what the original would look like, and the original starts feeling uncannily odd in comparison to the normal meme. So the meme itself becomes the way that reality works, rather than the uncanny original where you're like, ugh, I don't really like that. I wish I really didn't see that. But then, memes themselves become so derivative that eventually we lose the complete understanding of the doomer and the Wojak, and we get to the point where actually reality is peeking through. This is just reality. It's no longer what we would even call a meme. It just is. But it's so derivative to understand this that you have to understand the many memes to get us to the point where we actually experience reality from it, and we say, oh, you know what? That's unfortunate, but there it is. Because there's immense amounts of power in meme making. To understand this meme means you got it, you're literate. So we've been pushing for meme literacies for quite some time at this point, because to teach it means that if you create a meme, as Pixelated Boat did many years ago, eventually the future will create that meme in our real life. It manifests as if it was real. It has yet to be Milkshake Ducked. But you know what? It could happen. And you never know, because eventually every future meme becomes the meme of the moment, and that is why we have to take these things seriously. And these memes, the presentation of which, the labor, the meme creators, and all of us here who study it, write about it, understand internet culture, teach about it, it is part of how we have to understand the future as it unfolds, because if we don't, we're going to be lost into that future. So my push is that we start studying and taking it very seriously. So thank you all for being here, and we're looking forward to the rest of these talks.